on a certain image, and you have no idea what I go through to maintain it. The workouts, the lotions, pretending I wasn't fourth runner-up at the Miss Teen Bicentennial pageant.
It's the Stephanie Miller Show. I'm John Fugelsang, filling in for Steph today from the New York Bureau, joined by the lovely and brilliant Ms. Elaine Boozler. Phil, if you're listening, Phil being her husband, we're keeping her the extra hour, so you're not going to see her this afternoon.
Uh-oh.
That's how it is. I'm the guy telling you.
We're having our way with
Put
it.
your pants on!
And I'm especially pleased now to welcome a very special guest to the show. I had him on the last time I guest hosted. Zafar serves as the national spokesman for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA, which is the oldest Muslim organization in America. And Harris leads the effort to roll out the Muslim community's nationwide Muslims for Peace campaign, working with thousands of Muslim youth across the 70-plus chapters throughout the country. Harris is a regular on Bill O'Reilly's O'Reilly Factor, where he plays the sane, cool, chill, progressive Muslim guy that Bill doesn't get. And I did a pilot with the man this summer in Atlanta, and it's a pleasure to welcome Zafar back to the show.
Thanks, Don. Great to be back. Really good to talk to you again.
So are you okay with being the official cool Muslim pal of the Stephanie Miller Show? Will you accept that?
I can handle that. That's a lot of pressure because you guys are a lot cooler than I am. But,
no, we're not. We're talking about elves on this show, Harris. We are the opposite of cool. We're talking about elves and telling Dick Cheney his evil jokes. It's really not a very sophisticated thing, and we've dragged the whole thing down to a base level.
Make them leave. Well, it's been nice talking to you. See you guys.
Harris, I'm very thrilled you're here because there's so many things I want to talk to you about. But first, you'll have to, before we get to the important stuff, can we just talk about Pam Geller for 1 second?
I'd love to.
For those who don't know who Pam Geller, how would you describe Pam Geller to people who aren't familiar with her work?
Pam Geller is like the serpent in the Garden of Eden that you don't want to trust. So she's the founder of a blog, Atlas Shrugs, and she dedicates herself to warning America, warning the world about Islam or the threat of Islam or the threat of militant Islam. And she spends a lot of time attacking the left, attacking President Obama, saying that he's at war with America, that he's a secret Muslim. So the conspiracy theorist that promotes this fear of Muslims.
Yeah, and she's rather out about this. She does talk about the jihadist in the White House, and she calls him a jihadist. And she recently just was talking about his guidelines for 9/11. There are some official talking points out of the White House, and Pamela Geller, I'm going to quote here, said that Islamic supremacist talking points from Obama that disrespect our war dead and whitewash the incalculable cost of the jihadist war on America. How does it feel to you, Harris, to hear the president, who is really not Muslim, described in such a way?
It's absolutely ridiculous in my viewpoint. I mean, it's clear that she has some agenda that is to promote her viewpoint and to take anyone down who says anything reasonable. And President Obama has made concerted strides to focus on the security of this nation, but also promoting the multiculturalism that makes the United States what it is. And she continually tries to tear that down. So it's incredibly sad to see somebody who has not become a public figure just seek to create division and discord among people.
Well, and this brings up an interesting question, Harris. We talk about homophobia all the time on the show, and you don't ever know when one of these right-wingers comes out and says something awful about our gay friends. Do they really mean it, or are they just saying that to play to the base? When it comes to a person like Pam Geller, the reason why people buy what she's selling is because there are people who want to buy it. She's selling this hate towards Muslims because there are people out there who want to hear hate towards Muslims. It is supply and demand. We don't even know if Pam Geller really hates the Islamic community. She just knows that she can make a buck off the hate.
That's possibly true. I know that. She was just a stay-at-home mom for a while until about a decade ago, when she suddenly started erupting with this blog and going on all sorts of national television, radio shows. Clearly not the reputable ones like the Stephanie Miller Show.
She was a stay-at-home mom until her kids begged her to go to work.
Like, please get out of here. But yeah, the things she says, she's called President Obama, quote, a Mohammedan who wants a jihad to win. She says that he's essentially backing Al-Qaeda in Libya. And according to her, she says that everything that the president has done so far has helped foster America's submission to Islam. And so it's this continual ingraining within the American population of don't trust this man because he's on Muslim side, and after establishing the Muslim side is a bad side to be on.
Of course. And this is how I feel when I hear people, like saying, oh, Michelle Bachmann and Rick Perry are good Christians who are really into hurting the poor and working people and the death penalty. And I'm like, no, don't confuse all Christians with what they say. And you must have to deal with this constantly when there's a whole industry devoted to deriding an entire religion based on the fundamentalists of your faith.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'd be a fool not to concede or admit to the fact that there are Muslims out there that are doing things that are completely brutal, savage, and horrific. And so yeah, I don't turn a blind eye to that. And actually, I actually focus on those Muslims quite a bit. At the same time, there are.
That's why you're one of my heroes, Harris.
Okay. But at the same time, we have to turn our attention to the likes of Pamela Geller, Robert Spencer, Daniel Pipes, who take these actions by these radical fringe group and amplify that and say, see, this is what Islam is all about. And that's why Geller has made some pretty remarkable comments on her blog saying that Arabic is not just a language, but it's actually a spearhead for anti-Americanism. And so, and when I speak out about her, it's not to defame her or to insult her. It's really just to raise awareness amongst my fellow Americans that, hey, this is not somebody you want to trust.
Absolutely, and this is what I say to my atheist friends all the time, and I say it on this show a lot too. When you talk about, oh, religion's bad and religion's responsible for all the war and violence and oppression of women, no. It's the far-right fundamentalist wing of every religion.
Every religion.
Christianity, Judaism, Islam. The more to the right you are, the more you're making problems for other people. The vast majority of progressive or moderate Christians, Jews, and Muslims get along just fine. But the more you are to the right of any religion, there's four things you have in common. The more you oppress women, the more you oppress gay people, the more you use violence to solve your problems, and the more you demonize other faiths.
And the more you deny science.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And really for me, my understanding of Islam has always been that the middle way is the best way. Far right, far left are both, there's a reason why they call them far. You don't want to go extremes either way. You don't want to change your faith or just to appease someone else. At the same time, you don't want to get so hardline that you're actually missing the whole point of what your faith is all about. So Islam and Muhammad always taught that the middle way is the best way. Moderation is the key. And it's just unfortunate that Islam is painted as a non-moderate faith.
I just want to thank you. Do you know how happy the Jews are that it's not us?
Well, but it's true, and I feel the same way about Christianity. You watch the liberal mainstream media, what do you see? You see atheists and you see imbeciles screaming at women outside clinics, and you don't see a lot of middle ground. So I admire everything you stand for, Harris, and I wanted to ask you about that new report from the Center for American Progress, because they're talking about the amount of money that certain groups are putting into organizations that do spread hate and fear of Muslims, and how Islamophobia is actually a well-funded racket.
That's right. So the Center for American Progress came out with this report. It was a 6-month-long investigative research, and they found that over $42 million have been invested from 7 specific foundations over the past decade that have helped fan the flames of anti-Muslim hate in America. And the primary recipients of them were actually listed, and the same people I mentioned, like Daniel Pipes, Robert Spencer, Frank Gaffney, Steve Emerson. And so these are the people that have been benefiting from these millions, tens of millions of dollars that have been spent over the past decade just to promote their theology. And like this Robert Spencer, he makes well over $100,000 just from being a blogger. Now that's pretty good for being a blogger.
Wow.
And that's according to this report, at least. This report,
he makes 6 figures for blogging and hating
Holy
Muslims.
cow!
Yeah.
And who's funding him? Who's paying him to spread the hate?
So it's a variation of the 7 different organizations that they listed out in this report. And for example, the David Horowitz Freedom Center, they had donated over $250,000 in 2010 to Robert Spencer's Jihad Watch group, and $140,000 of that, apparently, according to this report, was the salary for Robert Spencer, and that's not including his book sales and of course how much money he gets for speaking. So as a blogger, he's actually made quite a good career for himself, and he's being funded by the likes of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, or even what's the Richard Sky Foundation.
This is like what they accuse Soros of doing, right? Like they accuse George Soros of, no one in media matters is buying a boat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly. But I think you and I finally figured out how to make a living as comedians.
Yeah, well,
you're going to have to forgive us for this, but we do need the money.
Yeah, sorry, Harris.
Sorry, pal.
No, you're an insane jihadist, Harris, and I take back everything nice I said about you because I need to pay the rent.
No, that's why I think that it's so well funded, and And I probably can't stop that big machine, but what I do want to do, what I can do, is raise awareness of, hey, there are Muslims that aren't just sitting at home saying, yeah, we're peaceful, we're going to sit in the comfort of our living rooms. We're getting out there and actively taking a stance for peace, and that's what our 9/11 10-year anniversary commemoration is all about. There's 3,000 Americans that were brutally taken from us 10 years ago. We want to multiply that by that 10 and save 30,000 American lives this year, and we're going to do that by collecting 10,000 bags of blood in the month of September. We're calling this Muslims for Life, and it's a substantial effort. There are literally thousands of Muslims across the nation that are participating in this, handing out flyers that say Muslims for Life, organizing. There are almost 200 blood drives so far organized for the month of September, all so that we can show Americans that, hey, we're here to save lives. We're shedding blood to save lives, not shedding blood to take lives.
Wow. That's fantastic. Where can people learn more about that, Harris?
They can go to muslimsforlife.org. They can always go to our parent site, which is muslimsforpeace.org, and there's a whole slew of information on there. And we just want our fellow Americans to come join us and just helping to save lives on this 10-year anniversary to honor the victims of 9/11.
For me, when I was a teenager, my cousin Debbie in Jersey married an Egyptian doctor, and so I wound up having Muslim relatives at a very young age. So I was deprived of decades of hate that I, as an American, am entitled to. I never got a chance to hate the Muslims because I knew awesome Muslims who were in my family. I got a Muslim cousin, I got a Jewish sister-in-law, an atheist brother, and an ex-nun mother, so I don't get to hate anybody. And it's very unfair. Chris Lavoie can hate elves. I don't get to hate anyone. And but how is it for you when you go on Bill O'Reilly? I mean, is he courteous to you? Does he get it, or does he have to kind of fan these flames to keep his base interested?
Well, I mean, he's an artist. He knows his art very well, and he is a lot more cordial off camera than he is on camera. But yeah, he has to. I mean, there's a reason why for what was it, over 100 consecutive months, he was the #1 rated cable television show in America, and it's because he knows how to turn against people on the air, and so yeah, he does like to push the envelope and make some pretty bold claims and say he has done some extensive research. I mean, he's the one that with an interview with Representative Keith Ellison, who's a Muslim, he said he cites Frank Gaffney to charge that violent extremism and Sharia law is being condoned in 75% of American Muslim mosques.
Yep.
So how did you get that figure? Did he actually go to the mosques and actually figure out that 75% of them condone Sharia law? It's a made-up statistic that he, as well as many others, Geller has done this as well. Representative Peter King, he said over 80% of mosques in this country controlled by radical Muslims.
Oh, get me started on that guy. We should start banning calling Sharia law.
I think it's 1,000%.
Here's the burkas. I need the burkas. The pizza.
Harris Zafar, I thank you for coming on the show, and I thank you for all the work that Muslims for Life is doing. I'm on all next week. Will you come back again and talk more about this for the 9/11 anniversary?
It's always a pleasure being on the line with you, so I'd love any opportunity to.
I thank you, and I thank you for your low standards. Harris Zafar, the official Muslim House of see you next week. And we have to go to break. We'll be right back with more with Elaine Boozler. I'm John Fugelsang. It's the Stephanie Miller Show.